I went to Lincoln Center to hear the New York Philharmonic last night, except that it wasn't the New York Philharmonic, it was the mostly Mozart Festival Orchestra. And it wasn't a Mozart performance, it was a Beethoven performance. The highlights of the performance were Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. But that was actually not why I went. I went to hear the Choral Fantasy, which you don't hear a lot. Some of you who may be older, Merrill Lynch very briefly had it as their theme song in their commercials, maybe about, 5 or 10 years ago. It's a very difficult piece to put together for a performance because you need a soloist piano and you need a chorus and you need an orchestra. So it's very complicated to pull off. So you don't see very many live performances. I had never seen any live performance of it. And they had the Fifth Symphony, very good, very nice performance. And then they had the intermission. Obviously there's no chorus in the Fifth Symphony. So the chorus came out during the intermission. And it was still the intermission. The lights were still on, full blast. The chorus was getting ready. They were all seated where they were supposed to be, and the orchestra was where they were supposed to be. They were getting ready. But it was still the intermission, still bright lights. I decided, hey, I'll take out my handy-dandy camera phone and I'll snap a quick picture because I thought it would make a nice picture. So as I take the picture and I'm futzing around with my cell phone camera, a security guard comes and says, "You can't be taking pictures in here. You need to turn that cell phone off now." Of course, you actually have to raise it up maybe an octave because it was a woman. I certainly understand private property and contracts in terms of contracts, but get a life. It's still the intermission. There's nothing wrong with taking pictures, no flash, not a video, just a quick cell phone flashless camera picture of the intermission. You go to Broadway, people are taking pictures inside the theater all the time before the performance starts during the intermission. There's nothing wrong with it. It's understood that you're allowed to do this. And I'm futzing around with the camera trying to do my thing, and I realize she's standing over. She doesn't go away. She is hovering over me, waiting for me to turn the cell phone off and to put it away. Lights on, still the full intermission, and I didn't think anything about it because I didn't really care, and I didn't want to get thrown out of the theater. Afterwards, as I was on my way home and such, I really started to think about this from the lawyerly, legal aspect of it. I went back into the program, and this is what I came up with. The photographing or sound recording of any performance or the possession of any device for such photographing or sound recording inside this theater without the written permission of the management is prohibited by law. Offenders may be ejected and liable for damages and other lawful remedies. Now think about that. The photographing of any performance. I was not photographing the performance. I was photographing the intermission. And look at the second part. The possession of any device for such photographing. Does that mean it is now a violation of law even to bring in a cell phone that has a camera into the theater? The possession of a device. This is such a device. Are you going to tell people that they are not allowed to even have their cell phones in the performance? Of course not. That's issue number one. The idea of what in law school we call the difference between rules and standards. A rule has to be interpreted. It has to be subject to reasonable interpretations, and no reasonable person objects to the idea of taking flashless photographs inside a theater or a concert hall during an intermission or before the performance starts. And the more I think about it, the more I think this woman was out of line. That was issue number one. Issue number two, of course, was the tone that this woman took with me. You need to put that cell phone off now. Yeah, that's not how you do it. This is Lincoln Center, one of the crown jewels of New York City culture. Paying patrons, even if they're doing something that maybe is wrong, and I don't think it was, deserve to be treated a little more nicely. Maybe something like this. Sir, I'm terribly sorry, but the taking of pictures isn't allowed. I have to ask you to turn the cell phone off. Thank you for your understanding and enjoy the rest of the performance. That's how you do it. You don't do, "You're not allowed to take pictures. You need to turn that cell phone off now." Lincoln Center. My question for you, how have you been treated badly? What kind of horror stories do you have about, not just about theaters or concerts, things like that, But in any kind of a customer service or security, overly aggressive interpretation of a rule, either that or what kind of customer service nightmares have you had at airports or with computer support or anything? Share your horror stories. And what do people think? Was it okay, given the rule, which I'll post again, given this rule, was it okay for me to take a flashless cell phone picture during the intermission with the lights full up? And the worst part of this all was that with my futzing around with the jackbooted female security guard waiting for me to turn my cell phone off, I didn't push the right buttons and I wound up losing the picture, so I don't even have the picture. Oh well.